With the new Bionic pack comes a few new elements, one of them being Gunk. In a recent playthrough that I'm doing on Twitch, I'm playing only Bionic duplicants. I have currently run into a problem. I have too much Gunk. What to do with this Gunk? Why not burn it off and make some petroleum, I thought. Now looking at Gunk, if we heat it up to 447.9 degrees, it'll turn into petroleum and sulfur. Sulfur is the issue, as regular sulfur will turn into liquid sulfur at 115 degrees Celsius, which is far below petroleum. Then we go to liquid sulfur going into a gas at 337 degrees Celsius, also below what we're cooking our petroleum at. So we have to make sure that we're running this at a temperature that will keep the sulfur a gas and not a liquid. So taking a look at this build, one of the first designs that I had, we have the Gunk coming in, being valved down, looking like a normal petroleum boiler at this point, just regular granite pipe here, but then I have copper gradient pipe to get that cross temperature exchange going on. And then here on the top level, I went ahead and switched it just to normal granite pipe, just normal granite pipe right here, and then just a few pipes made out of ceramic. Now, we want to keep the gas on this side. The gas is going to come up here, cool off, and then turn into sulfur. In order to make sure that we don't get a gas in here, I will be placing a tile right here on startup, and I'll show you how to do that. Meanwhile, the sulfur gas goes up the airflow tiles, made of steel. I think you could make this out of something other than steel, but steel works here. I do have one temp shift plate right here made out of diamond, and this thermo sensor set at 448 degrees. So taking a look into the gas overlays, you can see that the sulfur gas comes up, comes over to the right, and immediately gets cooled off by these temp shift plates made out of granite. This is all cooled on one steam turbine and one thermal aquatuner. We have a little bit of Gunk down here just to help with the conduction. Taking a look at the shipping overlay, we can see the sulfur is going around and getting cooled. Once the sulfur reaches below 30 degrees, it is allowed out, and I just have it going right here. This is making micrograms of sulfur, so you do not want this auto sweeper running all the time. I did try it with a weight plate, however, I found that with a timer sensor it works a lot better. So let's go ahead and start up a brand new build. Taking a look at the cooling overlay, I am just filling up it right now with polluted water. All these pipes here are made out of gold. The metal tiles here I have made out of copper. The conveyor shutoff is copper. You can use copper or gold, either way. Low cost materials right here for this, and the polluted water will be just fine. We're going to set this to -5 degrees. The conveyor loader and the conveyor sweeper do need to be made out of steel. However, the conduction panel can be gold, can be copper, anything that's really conductive. Obviously, aluminum would be the best. Now that the cooling loop is full though, let me just go ahead and deconstruct that bridge. We don't need it anymore. The steam turbine over here, this is made out of copper. You can make this out of lead or whatever. It's going to be cooled right here by these metal tiles. I also want to have a little bit of Gunk on the bottom just to help with the cooling. So let me go ahead and put that there. In fact, this does not need to be a vacuum. This is currently a vacuum, but you could break in here and make this oxygen or even hydrogen for a better conductivity. But this room here will always be pretty much as cold as this. So plenty of cooling just from these metal tiles alone. No need to cool this with the cooling loop itself. And so I just dump that water from the steam turbine directly back into the steam chamber. This one has a little bit of petroleum on the bottom, but you can get away with Gunk on the bottom. So let's go ahead and put a little bit of Gunk on the bottom here where our thermo aquatuner is. With our cooling loop here, we're going to want to have this set to a normal temperature in your base. Let's say 30 degrees. So if it's above 30 degrees, it's going to turn on the conveyor shutoff, making it go around our loop again. I have a double bridge here. The sulfur goes up here and over the bridge, and then around the cooling loop and gets checked for temperature. If it's too warm, it comes down, goes over this bridge, and then comes back on the cooling loop. Now going to the sulfur extraction. I have a timer sensor here set on the cycle. We have it set for 0.03 every 1 cycle. Getting over into the actual boiler, we have 2 steel airflow tiles. You might be able to get away with something else there, but I use steel. I also use the steel liquid vent. And in the piping, we have these pipes here out of ceramic. I have normal pipes out of granite. I have these pipes out of copper. And this is 6 tiles wide. The reason I have granite pipes up here is because the heat capacity on Gunk is not very much. It's not nearly the same as crude oil and heats up quite a bit faster than crude oil does. Now with the thermosensor, I have it set for above 448 degrees. That is 0.1 degree above where Gunk turns into petroleum and sulfur. I have found that with Gunk, you really have to be very careful with these temperatures and feather it oh so carefully, because if not, you will make sour gas. Behind the thermosensor, I have a temp shift plate made out of diamond, and then 4 metal copper tiles above the steel mechanized airlock. I do have the heat spike made out of diamond, however you could make this out of tungsten or possibly steel. Now looking into the power overlay, it's pretty simple here. I use steel in the very hot areas, but I can get away with copper wires pretty much everywhere else, or iron. Steel inside this mechanized airlock is pretty much mandatory, as this is going to get extremely hot. This all runs on 1820 watts, so you will need 1 transformer to run this. However, when the steam turbine is running, you'll find that this is very efficient. Now, when it comes to the collection of the petroleum, here's our room that we're going to collect it in. Make sure that these are made out of steel and have it set to above 500. And then we will just go ahead and pump that petroleum out over here. So if you decide to try this, this is the best way to do it in-game. Have an access coming in right over here. Have a ladder coming down. You can build these as you go. Obviously, build the pipes first, then build the insulated tiles. That allows you to access in all these locations, including this one, if you were to deconstruct that igneous rock insulated tile. However, let's put that back. In fact, in order to start this up, I like to put a granite tile right here. That just makes sure that all the gases stay in this chamber and in this chamber until I'm ready, until this has got enough petroleum to then flow, because we do not want any gas in here at all. We'll go ahead and close this up as if we've already built it. You can leave this here in order to service this area. Now, I do recommend having a signal switch as well as this set for the temperature, and have it set on until you are ready. This is very important. You got to feather this build quite a bit. Now, filling this up at a full 10 kg per second of Gunk, we'll go ahead and get at least the first set of tiles filled up just until it touches the next tile above it. 850 kg is a full tile of Gunk, and we are getting closer to that. Once we get to that and it spills into the next tiles above it, we're ready to then start turning this on and warming the Gunk up. And there we are. Now, just barely touching the next tile. So let's go ahead and start this up. Do this on a low speed. You do not want these top tiles going above 500 degrees. If it goes over 500 degrees for too long, it can turn into sour gas. So we'll go ahead and turn that off, allowing the door to close. That allows these copper tiles to heat up. As we are approaching 450 degrees, let's go ahead and get ready to open the door. Opening the door, I'm just going to allow the Gunk and the copper to kind of exchange its temperatures and equalize. See, the copper's going back down below 400. This is almost at the 400 mark, so it's pretty close. Let's go ahead and close those doors again. Again, once it gets to about 500 degrees, I hit pause, I open those doors, and I make sure that we do not go over 500 degrees for too long. Once it gets down to about 400 or so, I'll close that. As soon as it gets over 500, we'll open those doors. Let it cool off a little bit. Get close to 400 again. 430 maybe. Go ahead and close those doors. 500 degrees. Open the doors. And it's just this kind of feathering back and forth until we get all petroleum. That should be good. And one more. There we go. With it changed over to petroleum and sulfur gas, I can start the flow of gunk again. However, instead of 10,000 grams, I want to do it at 6,000 grams a second. And we'll wait for that to reach before I turn that back on. I do not want that getting any hotter until this gunk is flowing and in the pipes. Alright, now that that gunk is flowing in, we can turn that on, and there you go. And now that it's all changed, it's running automatically. You will see a little bit of liquid sulfur gaining over here, but it will condense. When you get about here, you're going to want to start thinking about opening this up. However, you got to be a little bit careful, because if you open this up and let gas in here, that's going to be a problem. You only want petroleum to come out. But once you've gotten this tile out and the petroleum started flowing, you'll never have to touch it again. So let's go ahead and simulate that right now. Let's say we had a dupe come in here and deconstruct this. That allows the petroleum then to flow over. So there's a lot of potential cooling with this setup. This aqua tuner is only going to be on about 15 to 18% of the time. So you could also run this cooling loop maybe into some petroleum generators to keep them cool, if you wanted to keep them cool, that is. And checking in on the thermal aqua tuner in the actual game, this has been on 13% of the time, so very efficient. You could cool quite a few other things with this as well. What am I running this at? 1,000 grams a second. That's right. I have a lot of petroleum. I'm kind of running a little bit low on gunk. So you're dealing with petroleum, sulfur, liquid sulfur, sulfur gas, and gunk. All of these filtered out and dealt with in the gunk boiler. So here's a quick look at the power overlay. Here's a look at the piping overlay. Here's a look at the automation overlay. Here's the shipping overlay. Well, I hope this helped. I hope you go out and build yourself a gunk boiler. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like on it, subscribe for more content, and I hope to see you again. Thank you very much. Live free.